How's it, everybody? On episode 19 today, I've got Sisonke from Surfers Not Street Children. And these guys aim to identify children who are at risk of street connectedness and empower them to leave street life and reintegrate into society successfully through the medium of primarily teaching them how to surf. It was founded in 1998, and Sisonke has come through the program himself and also now works for them and is an integral part of their non-profit organization. They've got over 80 kids that they are trying to give opportunities to, and it's important to note that these kids that are being picked up from impoverished backgrounds, from the streets, they are not there because of the decisions that they've made. They've been born into such circumstances, and what they're doing at Surfers Not Street Children is giving these children opportunities for a better life. And in doing so, by giving them a better life and giving them opportunities, those opportunities are going to extend to those children's immediate friends and family as well. So really kudos to them on what they're doing, and it's a tremendous reminder that there are lots of good people wanting to do good work in our Durban community, and long may it last. So as always, like, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Sisonke from Surfers Not Street Children, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. So, dude, tell me about how you got involved in Surfers Not Street Children, and then tell me about what the project does.
So basically, I joined the program when I was about 9 years old through our director, Sandile Mqadi. He used to run a program in South Beach, and I was still like a very little grom. And then he was like, "You must come surf with other kids," and I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" And he's like, "Just come to the beach, and then I'll show you what surfing is." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I started off as surfing, started surfing with him, and then eventually I evolved throughout the program because it was like a community-based program under KZN, but also it's also part of Surfers Not Street Children. And then I joined them, and then I enjoyed it, and then I did my years, and then now I'm like part of the team now because I work there and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, bro. What does the program actually do? So take me from the beginning. So how does the program, let's start with this, identify a child? How does that process happen to get them into the program?
So basically we've got what we call, we've got a team of social workers, which is led by Slindile Ngema and Eugene Ngiti. So what they do is they go out on, what do you call this again? They go out and go look for children in the street or around the shelters. So when they find them, and then they call, like we use surfing as a tool to attract a lot of kids, and then we sort of like identify the different needs that they obviously, or the different problems that they're facing, and then we try and assist them with that. Because obviously the kids that come to the program, they're so different. So some of them come from basic homes, some of them come from the shelters, and then some of them are from the street. So we've got 3 groups of kids.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was particularly interested in, is not everybody's going to take to surfing. You know, and you've got people from different backgrounds. Maybe some people aren't as skilled in water and being in the ocean as others. And so how exactly does that work? Do you say, what if a guy can't surf or can't swim? Do you bring him in and then we spend time with him on the beach? Do you eventually get him to surf? Is the whole thing teaching them how to surf? Or is it more come in, identify?
So basically the initial thing is that a child comes in with the social workers, or they just come in like as a word of mouth from a friend to the drop-in center. And then the drop-in center is behind New Pier, behind California Dreaming, a restaurant at New Pier.
Yes,
so we're at the hub of New Pier. So we've got a drop-in center there. That's where everyone meets up. And then from there on, we identify there's kids that can surf, have been surfing for a while. And then there's brand new kids, like a newcomer, for instance, that just came in on a brand new day. So what they do is we register their name down. And then we obviously, the lifeguards or water safety, they take them, put them in the pool, teach them how to swim, and then obviously take them to the ocean. And then from there on, they teach them how to surf on the sand first, like basic learn to surf stuff.
Yeah.
And then obviously they go in with their coaches in the water, and then they get pushed, and then they stand up. And then after a while, we get to realize whether or not, like maybe after a year or after 6 months, depending on how much they actually like surfing, they stick to that. But we've also got other programs in the organizations where they can do yoga. We've got dance. We've got makeup artistry. We've also got a lot of programs, yeah. And we've got educational programs. We've got computer lab where they do a lot of computer stuff. And then we've got after school programs where they just like study and then help each other out. And then we've got group sessions where they speak openly with the social workers, because the females speak directly with SLE, because it becomes kind of like very sensitive if a female speaks to a male guy, male staff about certain topics.
Yes.
So we allocate the females to the female social worker, and then the males to the male social worker, and then it works like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You've got a female program as well with the surfing, right?
Yeah, so our female program, we call it the Girl Surf 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it started with like a group of girls. It's Indy, Nogwanda, Sibonga, and a couple of other them, but they're like the main ones.
Yeah.
And then we've got Snare, which is she's now like an ambassador, and she also helps out with the water safety at the program. She's one of the females that went to ISA Worlds and represents South Africa during 2016 and 2017. During that time, she went to El Salvador, went to Japan, and then she just recently went to America, and then she won a contest, a Great Day in the Stoke contest in America, last month. And then today, we having Indies leaving with the South African team. She's also part of the Girl Surf 2, so she's going to Brazil to go represent South Africa as well. So she's got her green blazer. She went last year, but she went to El Salvador, so this year she's going to Brazil.
Flip, that is awesome, dude.
So it's quite amazing. And then some of the other girls, they do well in surfing, but then it's like they're more focused on a different life of experts. It's like our initial thing is not to build pros, but it's just to divert them from the circumstances that they live in around the community that they're in, because they come from very, very tough backgrounds. So with us using surfing as a tool, some of them become pros, and then some of them don't become pros. But then that doesn't mean that we've obviously given up on them, or they haven't succeeded, or the program hasn't changed their life. So by doing that, we make sure that, okay, cool, we can see that you can't, obviously, you're not going to be a pro surfer, but then you can maybe tap into the different fields in the surf industry, or barista, or whatever the case, we can assist in.
Yeah.
Depending on the support that we get from people. And then because we do get people that are like, okay, we're looking for someone that's going to be A, B, and C. And then we're like, okay, this is the suitable candidate for that position. And then we allocate them to that.
I think also what's so important is you're taking a person out of their area where they might be prone to making mistakes, growing up, breaking the law, being out on the streets, involving themselves with people who are not the type of people that you want to associate with in terms of making good life decisions.
100%.
And then you're taking them and you're putting them into a new crowd, which is something more constructive, and in this instance, it's surfing.
Yeah.
And you're giving them an opportunity to show them a different side of what life could be like, enjoying something, and using nature in this instance to do that is such a wonderful thing, because I personally took up surfing during COVID. So I'd always been a swimmer, so I've always gone to the beach and swum, and I've always enjoyed the ocean, but I've never taken up surfing. And then COVID came along, and then you were allowed to be in the water but not on the sand, if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember.
So then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm taking up surfing.
Yeah.
And then I've been surfing now for 3 years, and definitely just how it affects your mindset. going out into the water. And what I love about it being in the water is that there's no phones, you can't get distracted by anything
You're
else.
just connecting with like
You're
nature.
just being out there, bro.
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful thing to just be able to switch off. You at backline, and whether you catch one wave in 60 minutes, you're still going to come in and you're still going to feel good afterwards. You've got a bit of a paddle in. You've just had time to chill. So I love that. And you're absolutely right. It's not about, I don't think, turning people into professional surfers.
Yeah.
It's about taking them out of the environment where they don't stand a chance of succeeding and putting them into a position where you're giving them an opportunity to get into something. Could be lifeguarding, being a barista. And being a barista might end up, in 10 years' time, you end up having your own coffee shop.
100%, yeah.
So it's all of these opportunities that people are being given, which I think is the main thing. Tell me about your story personally, Sisonke. So you got into this program and then you've worked your way up. So how did it start for you?
So for me, it's basically Sandile taught me how to surf, and then from there onwards, I met Tom Hewitt, which is the global founder of Surfers Not Street Children, which he found in 1994. So it's about 25 years old now, the organization. So this year we were having our 25th year anniversary. So when I met Tom, I was like, so basically I did my school, like high school, and then after high school I did sports management. Because I grew up in South Beach, it's always been a very scary area, because it's like there's gang related stuff, and then there's like a lot of drugs circulating, and then there's alcohol abuse, and there's like thieves and everything like that. So we still not safe, around that area. So I was like, okay, cool, Tom, I've studied up until matric, so now I want to do sports management. And then he was like, okay, cool, but then what are you going to do with sports management? I was like, I want to join the organization, because I need to work for a sports organization when I do sports management. Because with me studying that, I can still get to surf, because I was like, I don't want to be behind the office and stuff like that. And he was like, okay, cool, you can go pursue that, and then you can come do your in-surf here at the program. And then that's how he took me upon.
Okay.
And then obviously throughout my surfing, throughout the years, because when I got to Durban, I did not understand the fact that like there were kids living in the street, because I came from the Bundu, so we don't have any street children.
Where do you come from?
I come from Coxted, so it's called small town with no ocean. So when I came to Durban, I was like, okay, cool, I can see street kids, but it didn't register to me. Why would someone leave their house and then just decide to go live on the street at the time, because I was also still young. But then as I went on growing older and getting closer to those guys, I actually realized that they're actually really, really good guys. Obviously, they have their downfalls and everyone makes their mistakes. But when we're in the water together, it made a huge difference, because they could teach me something that I couldn't do, because I couldn't surf. They could surf way better than me, but then they were living in the street. But because they obviously started first, and then I was like, okay, cool, these guys can surf, but they live in the street. How is that possible?
Yeah.
They're actually good swimmers. Some of them are lifeguards. And I was like, okay, cool. And then obviously with spending more time in the water and getting to know them, they taught me a couple of things, and then I eventually got better as well. And then also outside the water, that's when I took my knowledge, and then I taught them everything that I knew outside of the water, and then it became like a very tight relationship between us, because it's like we all come from the same hub, but then this hub, it's like you've got the community group, which I was part of, and then you've got the shelter group, and then you've got the street children. So because at the time I was young, so I didn't know anything about this. Obviously the social working at the time was very hard, because Surfers Not Street Children accomplished a lot of awards, because I think if you think about around 2010 or just before that, in Durban there were a very large margin of like street children.
Yeah.
But now you don't get so many street children around the street, because that's the work of Surfers Not Street Children. They cleared up all like the street kids around the area, because they used to smoke glue and stuff like that. So
Seriously?
yeah, and then but the worst thing that we had to deal with, well, basically the old stuff which was there at the time, the metro police used to abuse the kids because when they were standing in traffic lights and asking for money and doing all of, like they used to get abused. And then so because Tom of the Global Founder, he was here in South Africa and he was like he's gonna fight this because kids actually do have rights, and that's what we're about. We're about nurturing that and making sure that they are in a safe space. And obviously they are protected from whatever the case may be, whether it's sexuality abuse, alcohol abuse, any form of abuse, we're totally against that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you take these kids, right? Are the majority of these kids that come into the program going to school, or are they living out on the streets, orphans?
So our main thing is that at one stage we had a lot of them living in the street. So now because the times have changed, we've got a lot of shelters. So most of them live in shelters. So out of the 80 kids that we have in the program, we will have maybe 20 coming from the homes, 30 coming from the shelters, and then maybe another 20 from the street, but not so much. And then we refer them to other organizations that sort of put them back home, and then they obviously get diverted from those programs. So basically they get diverted from being a group of from the street, and then they basically enter the like public home group, which is like the home group. Yeah.
Okay, so that would be the shelter.
Yeah, so basically you're from the street and then you get moved because obviously everyone has a family.
Yeah.
So our social workers, what they do is if you're in the street, they try by all means to try and put you back to where you obviously came from, like, and try and resolve whatever issues there were with the family or anything like that. So if that usually works out, but if it doesn't, then you end up going to the shelter, or what happens is you go to the surf house. And then from the surf house, that's our HQ, which is in 62 Florence and Zama. So at the HQ, that's like our emergency house. So our emergency house, that's where we keep kids like that. Like if you're staying in the streets and you obviously don't want to go home, we're like, okay, what we'll do is we'll keep you here, but these are the certain protocols that you need to follow. You could wake up, you're going to go surf, you're going to go do all the programs in the organization. And then after that, if we can see that obviously you're getting, just after 18, we get you an ID, and then what we do is we get them jobs. And then after getting them jobs, then they enter the independent living program. The independent living program is for the kids that grew up in the program, such as me, and then they grow up to be old, and then they sort of get mentored into a perfect adulthood life. Well, not perfect, but just like a stable adulthood life, where they get to live in like an ordinary home, and then they go to work, and then they get to learn how to parent. We obviously assist them with every financial backing that they need, but then they get to live a different life from what they've been living from, because it takes a huge therapy coming from the street or the shelters and going into a stable home, or getting to learn how to survive in the adulthood life. Whereas when you were growing up, you didn't have all the other benefits that everyone else gets.
Yeah.
So what we try and do is close the gap between them and the people that actually have everything in their life. So basically, like for an ordinary kid like that has Wi-Fi at home and has internet, has a phone, can go to school, come back, there's food, there's a perfect meal in the evening, they get to get breakfast. For them, they don't get all of that, Maybe they come back from school, there's load shedding, and then maybe there's no lights throughout the entire building, because that's what shelters are like. It's like, well, basically shelters are pretty much made out of all the buildings that have been abandoned. So that's when they open up shelters, and sometimes there's no water, there's no electricity. So with all the kids that live in such circumstances, we take them and help them out at the surf house, and then we see the way forward with them. Especially our main priority is usually the girls, because they're usually at more risk because of all like the drugs happening there and the prostitution and all of that stuff around the Point area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about, is because sometimes a person can do their best to bring a street child into an environment where they feel safe, secure, they've got a roof over their head, they've got food on the plate. But what happens then when they get to 18, when they now can enter the big wide world, and then those people, I would imagine, would also run the risk of going back to those old roots of the streets, their 100%. Old connection. Yeah. So I love that there's this transition where once you finish the program prior to being 18, or turning 18, you've got that transition and that succession plan. To say, okay, cool, we understand that being an adult now is also difficult and it's tough to find a job, so facilitate employment. And then provide them with that infrastructure so they've got that to fall back on. I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, thank you. And then we've also got Samuel. He's the most recent one. He also works at the program. He does water safety as well. So he also grew up part of the program. So it's a phase where you start off as a kid, and then you finish school, and then that first year is usually very confusing for everyone because it's they don't know what they want to do. But then obviously, because they still come to the program, so we're still intact with them. And obviously, if you do leave the program, maybe because for some we don't have 100% success rate.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Well, it's difficult
because
you've got people from different backgrounds, different situations, family life.
Yeah, so wherever we can assist, we do assist with them, especially.
Tell me about some success stories that come to mind. You've touched on Indy, who's going to Brazil at the moment. Are there any other success stories that come to mind? Not even with surfing.
Not with surfing.
Just with anything. Could be surfing, could be in general life, anything.
In general, we've had Ndandum Sibi. He's part of our, he's pretty much, he's one of the very, very most talented kids that we've had growing up throughout the program, because he also did well competitively. He's a professional free surfer now. He also just won a contest.
I saw that 2 weeks ago or a week ago.
2 weeks ago in Port Alfred. So he's also part of our program. So he was a street child living in the street. He started living in the street at the age of 6 years old.
Yo.
And then obviously Tom saw him, and then he picked him up, and then he taught him how to surf. And then from there, he never looked back. For him, he was he doesn't want anything to do with the street life. So for him, his escape plan was if I don't want to, because imagine at the age of 8 or at the age of 10, you're in the street, you're with old people, they're doing drugs, people are stabbing each other here, everything is happening in front of you, so there's so much trauma. So what he decided to do is just go for a surf, and he spent as much time as he could in the water, and it worked out quite perfectly for him, because at one stage he went and represented South Africa, and he came out 16th in the world.
Wow.
As a junior, so he's quite a big deal. So it's a very, very huge success story for us as well.
Yes, I can imagine.
And we also have females that don't have success stories in the surf industry, but that went out. These two girls, they came in the club as street kids, and then we took them, and then we cleaned them up, and then they stayed at the surf house, and then we found them jobs. We got them IDs, and then found them jobs in the call centers, and then now they're working at the call center. They actually living their best lives now. They're stable, which is quite cool. We thought that they may be going to go back to the street life, but when we gave them that opportunity, they never looked back, and they just went, okay, cool, we're stable now. This is what we wanted, because the mere fact that most of them don't actually want to be in the street. No one wants to live in the street. But it's the circumstances that they face that force them to be in the street. But when you sit down and actually talk to them and try and find out what the issue is, it's usually that they don't want to be in the street. So they want to get out that life, because it's not a good life to live in.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. And with kids, it's not their fault.
Yeah, it's
not their fault. They were born into circumstances that they didn't have any say in.
Yeah.
100%. They were born into poverty, and those are the people that I feel the most sorry for, because they haven't had an opportunity to move up in the world, to know what it's like to have a roof over their heads, for example.
And
So
some
to
of them
have
were
those,
actually born in the street because their parents were actually street adults, and then some of them were born in the street, and then it's like
so there you go.
there's no hope. There's literally no hope. And then but then with those ones, that's where we know, okay, maybe we were dealing with the parent, and then the parent was like, okay, they basically attached to the street life, but we always like, okay, cool, you can be attached to the street life, but this is not a way to raise a child. If this is what you wanted for yourself, your child shouldn't suffer for what you did. So we try by all means to try and move those kids and be like, okay, cool, we'll take the kids from you, and then we'll sort of divert them into the right fields where they'll be safe, they'll be taken care after, they'll actually go to school, and then they'll be like stable, like kids where they've got a roof, they've got food, they go to school like every other child around the country, because that's the most important thing. Because if growing, like being born in the street, there's literally no hope for you. So that's where we actually come in, because it's very, very sad. We look at it and we're like, we're definitely against that, and then we try and take action by all means.
It's about giving people opportunities,
Yeah.
right? Because when you're a kid on the street, you haven't had an opportunity. You've been born into this, or you've had no say as to why you're there. It hasn't been your decisions that have led you to being on the street. And yet, there's no opportunity for you to then move away from there.
Yeah.
And that's why programs like Surfers Not Street Children is doing such a fantastic job, because what you're doing is you're essentially giving these children an opportunity at something better.
Yeah.
And what they decide to do with that opportunity is up to them, obviously. They can make the most of it, like the success stories that you've shared with me already. But the point is to give somebody that opportunity, because everybody deserves an opportunity.
Yeah.
Nobody deserves not to get one.
And the most recent one is, we also have a program in Mozambique, but obviously their social challenges are way too different from South Africa. You know, so in Mozambique, we opened the program in Mozambique around 2017. So it's pretty new, but it's also like growing really, really fast. Our director from Mozambique is Minnie. He's also a professional free surfer. So he's actually the first Mozambican professional surfer.
I saw that,
He's the first professional Mozambican pro surfer. And then we've also got Julia. She's also the first female Mozambican professional surfer. So they run our Surfers Not Street Children Tofu Surf Club down in Mozambique. They've also got their own social issues, but mostly their social issues is poverty and a lot of alcohol abuse around the area and drug abuse, and a bit of crime, but not as much as here in South Africa.
Okay.
But the main challenge that they're facing is like extreme poverty, especially because every year it's like, so their entire thing is every year when the year starts, the cyclone comes, and then it damages everything, and then they have to start from scratch from March or from Feb. They need to start from scratch and rebuild the entire area, and then every January the cyclone comes. It's just like a pattern.
Just this constant cycle.
Yeah, and with us, we suffered like a very huge hit when we also had the floods and obviously during the riots here. So it was quite tough for the people living in the shelters, because we were like, okay, cool, you guys don't even have money to, because some of them go out and go ask for money on the street, but no one wants to give money if the economy is at that state.
Yeah.
And obviously for us, it was like we got a lot of support from our fellow South African supporters, which was quite nice, because they gave us like products like food and stuff like that to deliver to them, and like products, and then we obviously did supply that. But with the economy changing, it becomes more and more tougher for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, what does the program mean to you personally? Like, where do you think you would be now? How old are you now?
I'm 26.
Okay, so you're 26.
Yeah.
Where
I
do you
joined the program when I was like 12 years old.
Okay, so where do you think you would be now if it weren't for the program?
I'd probably be somewhere maybe working, but obviously not enjoying the work that I'm doing at the time.
Yeah.
But maybe even in a worse state than that.
Do you find what you're doing very rewarding?
I find it very rewarding, given the fact that I'm not just getting better as a person, but I'm actually changing people's lives, and I can see the change that we do around the area that we grew up in. So it's more like I'm giving back to what was given to me.
Yes.
So, which is quite good. It always feels good, because I wouldn't be where I am without the program and without the street kids that were there at the time to teach me everything that they taught me.
Yeah.
So now with all the knowledge that I have and with all the knowledge that I've been getting from everywhere I've been, I'm giving it back to the kids that actually need it now. And then it's up to them what they want to do with it. But the fact that they are getting it makes a huge difference.
Exactly.
Because it's not easy to find. Like in some areas, you don't even get programs like Surfers Not Street Children, just focusing on the area that has social justice problems around the area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does Surfers Not Street Children get funded? Do you rely on outside funding, or how do you guys fund this whole project?
So basically, most of our funding comes from international, which is UK, America, and other Europe countries. But we don't really get any funding from the government or any some. So basically, it's just all like the small donations that everyone. So we basically survive on the donations that everyone pretty much puts in, whether it's 100 Rand a month or whether it's 200 Rand, whatever someone donates, it goes a long way with the stretch, what it does to change the kids' lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sisonke, how often are you surfing? Do you still surf regularly?
I surf regularly. I surfed this morning. It was okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the more I'm growing, the more I can't surf, because I've got certain
responsibilities
that I need to obviously keep an eye out on. And then because I do also filming,
nice.
When the waves are good, it's like the kids are just like, bro, you're not gonna surf, so you need to stand behind the camera and
you gotta get the shots.
Yeah, I need to get the shots, and then I'm just like, okay, cool, I'll rest my case. So pretty much surf when the waves are bad or when the kids are at school. So that's when I get to surf.
So the kids go to school, and then after school they come to the program.
Yeah.
And then they head out to the beach.
So 80% of our kids, pretty much 80 or 90% of our kids do go to school, and we've got a 10% that don't go to school. So the 80% go to school, come back from school, surf, go to the surf house, have a nutrition meal, like a stable meal where they have their veggies, bit of protein, bit of carbon, bit of everything, so that they have a balanced lifestyle. Because obviously with surfing, you need to eat healthy, not as healthy, but because some of them they don't even go back to like stable meals in the evening, you know.
Just having a meal is a plus.
Yeah, so we try and adjust to that, and then that obviously helps out. And then on weekends, what we do is we have 2 sessions. So on weekends, they surf in the morning, go to the surf house. In the afternoon, we like from like 11 till 1. And then when the surf house, they do their nutrition, they do their group sessions, talk to each other, talk to the social workers. And then some of them stay, mostly the females stay, because they've got dance and makeup artistry and all that. They love that. They love those. And then we've also got yoga. We do that in the morning as well, Saturdays. Andy Davis does it. He's also a supporter. He owns Mami Wata, and he also does the Zigzag Surf magazine. So he's so he's pretty much our big supporter, because he helps out with the programs. And then we've also got an environmental program that we do at Ushaka where they learn about the environment, like not throwing plastic around the beach, because it's a very, very massive thing.
I love that, yeah.
Because in our culture, like we don't get taught all of that. Like if you throw something on the floor, it'll end up in the ocean, and what it does to to the ocean water and what it does to the animals living in the ocean and what it does to the society in general. So what we try and do with that program, we try and teach them that they should look after the environment, and then we do beach cleans and try and get the new pier area as clean as possible, because at the end of the day, if we don't look after it, no one else is going to look after it, because it is our hub.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. And it's the hub of Durban, really.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, Durban has the best surf, even compared to 15 minutes up the road in Mshlanga. The beaches for surfing, these are the best places to surf in the area, and it is a coastal town. So the state of the beaches is crucial for the local economy, not only surfers, not street children, but for everybody
in general.
Yeah. And it seems that if we don't do it, then nobody's going to do it.
100%. Yeah.
So tell me, you said in your culture you're not taught about littering and what it does to the environment. What culture is that? Can you elaborate on that for me a little bit?
So basically, because most of us grow up in the townships and in the rural areas, like you'd get like a plastic and they'll send you, like, you just throw something on the floor. Like if I drink this water now, and then when I'm done drinking this water, I'm just going to throw the bottle on the floor, but it's still plastic, It goes a long way. It goes in the river, and then the river goes into the ocean. And then there's fishes in the ocean, It's just a cycle that damages the community. So I think as we grow older, I think also in our culture, I think we should try and teach the upcoming kids that they should be very, very cautious about what they do around the environment that we live in, because in the next 30 or 40 years, they'll have to suffer the consequences of what they're doing while they're still young, which is not what we were taught while we were growing up, because we just be like, okay, cool, you can just throw everything anywhere, But if you go to like places like the UK or anywhere in Europe or America or wherever, you don't get kids like 12-year-old kids or 10-year-old. They get taught from a very, very young age that if you're done and you're done eating something, or you've got something that you want to get rid of, you put it in the dustbin. But this side, it's not the case. I'm sure you see it all the time. Everyone just chucks everything anywhere, wherever. But it really damages the environment that we live in.
And it's especially noticeable when the Mgani river mouth is open and all of that comes down the Mgani and then goes into the ocean and then back onto the beaches.
And then that's where we also get affected, because that's when the E. coli levels go up, and then we can't use the ocean, and then the beaches are closed, and then we've got to run contests, we've got to let the kids surf, and then the kids are just fuming. They're like, we want to surf. We're like, the beaches are closed. They're like, no, they don't care. The beaches are open. They want to go surf. We're like, you guys can't go surf. And then it's like, so it's like,
So everything works in a system, right? So like exactly what you're saying. So the decisions that we make now as a society are what we're going to have to deal with in 20 or 30 years' time. So that forward thinking and it's completely understandable that there isn't that forward thinking for somebody who's in poverty. If you're in poverty, if you're in the township, you're not thinking of the decision that you're making now is going to affect something in 30 years' time. You're thinking, I'd imagine, you're thinking about where you're going to get your next meal. Or 100%. Those small things that are happening right in front of you. So it makes sense that there's no emphasis on don't litter, because there's way more important things in the here and now, like trying to find food and drinking water, that are going to get and attract people's attention.
100%.
But it all works together. The state of the Mgani affects tourism, it affects whether or not we can use the beaches, and now that's a perfect example. It affects the street children and the programs that are being run that have to do with the beach. And stand-up paddling?
Some of them do it, but they don't like it as much. But some of them, like, they do take up subs when it's like really, really flat, and they're just like, okay, cool. And then sometimes we're just like, okay, everyone must just hop on soft tops. We're going to paddle from New Pier all the way to Sharka and back. They don't like it, but they don't actually realize how much it helps them. Like when they paddle to Sharka and back, and then with the water safety team and all the coaches, they're like, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Gets us tired, and we just want to surf. But then the next time they go surfing, and then the ocean is like slightly big, then they're like, okay, cool. Then it's easy for them to paddle. Then they're like, oh, okay, cool. But not knowing that actually helped them as part of training.
Fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been caught in that mid-break a few times. And it's not fun,
has, eh?
Brew, and then you just paddle and paddle and paddle, and you look up and you're at the same spot that you were at like 10 minutes ago, and you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And then you've got to do that walk of shame where you turn your board around and you catch a foamy in,
jump off the pier,
and then you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
So I think every surfer's been there. Eh?
Yeah, everyone, definitely.
And Tommy, what other surfing stories do you have for me? All the time that you've been spending in the water over the last however many years. Did you say 18 years, eh? You're 26 and you were there since you were 8?
Since I was like 12 years.
Oh, 12. Okay,
years,
so 14 years on the beachfront surfing. You must have had some very cool stories.
I've had my fair share of moments, but most of the time I joined like the judging of competitions. So I'm like a professional judge. I judge WSL events and like local events. So basically, like my thing is like we get to see like these kids living in the streets shining in competition, and it's like it's amazing because it's a very rare story to actually see. So we actually really enjoy it, especially if it comes from females. Like when Snare used to win all the contests around South Africa, it used to be a big thing because she used to be the only black female surfer around South Africa. So imagine how big and how motivative that thing is for everyone around that sport around that time. So it was quite a big thing.
Being a pioneer and by achieving what she achieved, she sets the standard and inspires other black girls to
I think
see that that's what's possible.
I think if it wasn't for her, it wasn't going to be as easy to create a group of girls, which is like a Girls Surf 2 program, because she's the ambassador of the Girls Surf 2 program. So everything that falls underneath that tree, it's because of her. And she also like she still mentors them, but they've sort of like grown up now. So now what their responsibility now is to mentor the other kids. So that's another nice thing about the program is that and the fact that we've got a very, very big scale of history is that we're not really actually new. We didn't start the organization yesterday where we don't have like lifetime stories. It goes from a story from where Sandile, our director, used to be one of the only black few surfers at the time in 1994. And then on his way growing upon, and then he taught people how to surf in the South Coast, in Mzumbe side, because that's where he grew up. And then from there, he evolved and then came to town and started teaching street kids how to surf. And then from there on, there's all the street kids that at the time, now they're lifeguards, some of them are in the Navy, some of them I don't even know them because he obviously knows all the stories because he's quite old. And then from his generation and then coming to our generation, and then now I'm like, okay, cool, now I'm like 26. Obviously now I'm seeing all like these other kids growing up in front of me. I'm like, dude, you're like 10 years old just now, but now you're like 18. I'm like, okay, cool. Now you're a lifeguard. That's quite nice. And then you doing that. You're working at the surf shop. You're a barista, And then they're obviously looking at other kids that are currently joining the program. And they're like, okay, cool. Now you're 15, but you joined the program while you were 8. Now you can actually surf, but at the time you couldn't surf the time you joined the program. And they're like, oh, yeah. So it's like, just keeps evolving and evolving and evolving.
It must be so rewarding, hey? If you're around for that long, you get to see the changes and where these kids end up. And that's like 100%. The end product, that's why we do this.
Yeah. But for us, it's not even about the stuff. It's always about changing the kids' life and making the lives of the kids a better place, you know? Because our initial thing is just to make sure that kids are safe, because our safety is one of our first priorities, because without safety for these kids, then we're not doing a good job, because our initial thing is to make sure that they're safe, whether in the ocean, whether it's out the ocean, whether it's it's around the point area that they're in, or wherever they are, but we just try and make sure that they are safe, regardless of the situation that they're facing at the time. And then we do obviously show support wherever we can. So whenever someone donates, what we do is the money is allocated to all the different programs, but mostly to the after school programs, to the nutrition, and then we also do donations to the families, like food parcels and stuff like that. And then we get like donated clothes, and then we give them to the kids from the shelters. And some of the kids, because we also get funding from like O'Neill, they give us like clothes and wetsuit, because O'Neill is like our very, very massive supporter. They give us like wetsuit with all the surf gear that we get. We get it from O'Neill. Without them, I think it wouldn't be as easy as things are at the moment, because they give us a whole bunch of wetsuits, and we must make sure that the kids are warm during the winter, and in the summer the kids are styling with rashies with our logo in there, which is quite nice.
Awesome, man. It sounds like you guys are doing a fantastic job.
And then people obviously do come and donate surfboards and wetsuit. We accept everything, because it goes a long way, because we are the pioneers of the surf therapy around South Africa. So what we do is, whatever we get, we also try and stretch our hand to other organizations. Like there's organizations in J-Bay that kind of do the similar work that we do around that area, and then we send boards down to them in wetsuits. And then some of the organizations in the South Coast, even in the North Coast, we try and stretch our hand, because we know we've got a massive like a digital platform. So whatever we receive, we try and stretch our hand and try and make sure that we don't hug it and keep it for ourselves. We try and make sure that whoever wants to do the similar work that we're doing, we are open to assisting them, so that it helps all the kids around South Africa or around Africa live better lives, because it's not about us at the end of the day. So whatever kind of help that someone wants to offer, it's obviously going to the kids' life. It's not going directly to us, which is a very good thing.
Service, hey?
Yeah.
Just serving at whatever opportunity presents itself, serving anybody at any time. Where can people donate if they'd like to contribute in any way?
So we've got a website. It's www.surfersnotstreetchildren.org. So if you look at us up, we're going to see we've also got edits on YouTube. If you search for Surfers Not Street Children, even if you go on Instagram, search for Surfers Not Street Children, you're going to find us there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then we've got a link. We've got like monthly subscribers where you can donate as little as like 50 Rand, like £3, £5, whatever you want to donate. But then that actually goes a long way, because we get like a very, very minimum funding, where we get like a huge portion of our funding, but huge portion of fundings, they just come as a once off, you know? And then it's like, okay, cool, we got this funding, but we need to stretch it out for like the rest of like the next 2 years or something like that. And then it's like, then you get times like COVID that hit, and then you're like, okay, cool. Now we don't know what to do with that. And then obviously with all the inflations and stuff around the countries and the wars and stuff, it impacts us as well, you know, because it's like, okay, we lose a lot. Sometimes we lose funding, and then we're like, okay, cool. Now with this certain amount of money that we have, this is what we need to do with it. But we always have to be very, very cautious. So when we're being very, very cautious, that also kind of like limits our services to the kids. Because we're like, okay, we can help that child, but then this one, we need to help them. But it's like when we do, it's like it requires a lot of financial backing. But it's like we're gonna do it, but we're gonna try and see how we scrape through the following month. Because having to run 3 organizations around the world, because our headquarters, like basically the UK charity, they're the ones that go out and look for all the funding.
Okay.
And then Mozambique and South Africa, that's where all the programs happen. You know,
I'm with
that's
you.
where all the programs happen. And then from there, but to run the entire thing, when I looked at the numbers, it costs us about, for an average year, where we like, okay, we're just gonna be doing our normal work, but we're not gonna go extreme out, like go the extra mile. It costs us about 400 USD, okay, 400,000 USD for the whole year annually.
Okay.
And then for a year, it costs us about 800,000 USD.
Okay.
800,000 USD a year for like all the three around
For
the
all
world.
three.
For all three.
Okay,
Which
so
is
$400 US for just here locally,
Yeah.
and then 800 for
For all
globally.
three, yeah.
Okay,
Which
for
is
all
quite
three.
a lot, yeah.
Well, I mean, I hope that for the people listening that they get on board and they have an opportunity to check you guys out. I think the
And-
work that you're doing is fantastic.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
for us, it's not always about just wanting just basically financial backing. Like if someone wants to come to the organization and be like, okay, this is what they want to do. Like if like someone does art, you're more than welcome to come to the program and be like, yo, I wanna help teach the kids and do art. If you've got like maybe like a gym, for instance, we more than welcome, like maybe take 2 kids or whatever the case may be and be like, okay, this is what I want to train them up.
Yeah.
Like maybe do CrossFit, train them up, whatever. If garden services, whatever. We always open up to new ideas, because at the end of the day, it will change the kids' lives.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and which is what it is about.
That's
Because whatever skill that you teach them, it could be their lifetime skill at the end
Yes.
of the day, and then you never know what could turn out of it.
I
which is
love
quite
that.
good.
I love that, Sisonke. That is a fabulous way to finish off and to wrap up the episode.
Thank
You
you.
never know what might happen if you teach somebody a skill. You never know what they're going to end up with that skill and how they're going to use it with that opportunity.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for being here. I'll attach everything in the show notes for the people who are wanting to get in touch and then contribute in any way that they can.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right,
I really
cool, bro.
appreciate it.
Wait, before you go. Did you enjoy that episode as much as I did hosting it? Please go on to Apple Podcasts or to Spotify, rate the show, follow the show, subscribe to the show, leave a comment and a review. Every little bit helps. The more reviews that the show gets, the more traction it's going to get, which means that the guests get better and better, the value gets better and better, and then we can continue to grow together and be better as a community. Thank you very much. Have a great day.